I'm going to begin our time together with the sound of the pu. And the pu is always important because it marks the beginning of our gathering, the beginning of our, whatever it might be, celebration, meeting, anything. It brings us together. It lets everyone know that there's something important that's happening. Secondly, what the shell is meant to do is to call our ancestors to be here as well, so they can take part, they can participate. They are the ones, as Governor Burns has done, who set things in place for who we are now and the trajectory of the lives that we lead. So we honor them. So I'm just going to sound it a couple of times. As we honor and call our ancestors to be here, we also acknowledge this place as well. Long before these buildings were built, anything that existed here, our Hawaiians walked these grounds. And it's important to acknowledge the nature that was here before them as well. And so through the oli, every time we have ceremony, we offer an oli to acknowledge that, to ask nature to allow us to be here. And this is a oli aloha, which is a chant of love that speaks about the fragrances of the trees of the forests. That as we walk into the forest, we are embraced, we are loved by nature. Nature doesn't discriminate on who we are. It gives its fragrance to all of us as we enter into the forest. So we're asking the same thing of this place as well. Not just the building, but each other, right? We gathered here to reconnect with one another, to commemorate, yes, but also to be reminded of the aloha that exists within each and every one of us. So as I oli this, I want you to really connect with one another, to know that there is no separation between any of us, between the ground beneath our feet, the sky above us as well. So here we go. O naunai ka halame kalehua, e halelehua no yana ka no, o ka unoia e ano ine li ane, ho e o ka iki mai. A hiki mai no o ko iki puno me ke aloha. Aloha e, aloha e, aloha e. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. And once again, aloha mai kako, aloha. Aloha. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a time of celebration to remember Governor Burns and to talk story a little bit about the life that he lived while here in Hawaii, about the legacy that he was able to leave past his time here. And this is something that we all strive to do, right? To create a legacy that people can still learn from many, many years, 50 years in this case, past his death. And we are still reverberating through the things that he was able to build while here. And of course, JABSOM is one of those things that reminds us constantly of his efforts within our state. So we are grateful for Governor Burns for everything that he has done and continues to do for the state of Hawaii. In the foyer or in the lobby area, of course, you got to hear the music from our beautiful musicians there. So I know they're outside. They're probably packing up their stuff right now. But on the piano was Emi Obana. She is a PhD candidate in music, so please put your hands together for her. And then on flute, we had Marcus Moore, also at the University of Hawaii. So please put your hands together for him. Oh, there he is. Stand up again, Marcus. Stand up again. Emmy, you're there too? Yay! So thank you both so much for sharing your beautiful gifts with us. Also here with us, we have 4 members of the Burns Ohana. So today we have niece Haunani Burns, granddaughter Meredith Burns. Yeah, if you could, please stand if you're able. Meredith Burns, grandson Brendan Burns, and his wife Pat. Hey, mahalo to you. The Burns Ohana are wearing a kukui lei. And on their kukui nut lei, they have a little tag on there that says kukui he po, or the light that goes into the darkness. And it is a term that often describes great leaders And so they wear it, and on the other side of that tag, it says Jack Burns was a kukui helepo, a leader who is not afraid of what lies beyond. And truly, that is what courage is, and that is what faith is, right? To not even worry about what lies beyond, but just to do the work. And that's what he stood on. So thank you very much for honoring him with that. Mahalo. And of course, we are deeply honored to have three incredible leaders of Hawaii Ne. And so we have, of course, Governor Abercrombie, Governor Ige, and Governor Josh Green. So mahalo to the three of you for being here. Thank you, thank you. We'd also like to acknowledge JABSOM. JABSOM, everybody from here, stand up, please. All of you, students as well, stand up, please. So if you didn't know the history, you're going to learn it today. You're going to understand why this place is so special, why it's so important within the legacy that Governor Burns was able to leave. And so we honor you, Dean, and for all of your students and faculty who are here, thank you for continuing this great work. So mahalo. At the end of our time together, don't just head out to your cars and run away. They are going to give a tour of the facilities. So all of our students here at JABSOM, they are going to kind of divide the room into halves and then take one half to go tour, the other half talk story, ask questions, so on and so forth. So don't run away after, okay? Be sure to take advantage. So my name is Kahukeali'i, and it is a privilege of mine to be here, of course. What I believe my mission is in this life is to share aloha, is to remind people of the aloha that exists within them. And I do this through doing daily weddings every day, multiple weddings per day, multiple memorial services, so on and so forth. And it always provides opportunity for me to share and remind everyone of this aloha that we are made of, right? It is the ha, it's the essence of source of life, of love. And this is what we are meant to share forward. In everything that we do it with purpose, or should be done with purpose, not just to do for status, but to do because we are connecting everyone to understand that together we're going to make huge changes in this world. We're going to be able to bring peace. We're going to be able to bring love if you know that this love exists within you, and that is through the message of aloha. So that is what I do on a daily basis. Again, I'm honored to be here to share this time with all of you. My job as an MC now, I'm going to cut myself short because my job as an MC is very minimal. I'm going to leave it to the speakers who I invite up here to speak, leave it to them to share their mana'o, their aloha with all of you. And first up to share that aloha is none other than our current governor, Governor Josh Green, and also Dean Sam Shoemaker. Is it Shoemaker? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and then I'm going to have you come up one at a time too and speak, yeah? So Governor Josh Green is the 9th governor of the state of Hawaii. He is a physician. He began his service to Hawaii in the underserved area of Ka'u on the Big Island. He served in the State House and the State Senate for over a decade before becoming lieutenant governor, where his leadership of our COVID response saved thousands of lives. A very difficult time, a very dangerous time, and yet you were the leader that guided us through that as well as Governor Ige. So thank you so much for the job that the both of you had done together to make that happen. As governor, he is tackling issues ranging from housing and houseless, the Maui wildfire recoveries, climate change, and many other things on that long list of yours. So thank you so much for your accomplishments and what you continue to do. Dean Sam Shoemaker is the 6th Dean of JABSOM. And he was a first graduate or of the first class, 1986? Yeah? The first alumnus of JABSOM. So, So 1986 graduate and former vice dean from 2000 to 2005, the interim dean from 2005 to 2006. He returned to JABSOM following leading the Austin campus for the University of Texas Medical Branch and the Texas A&M Health Science Center. And so I'll leave the introductions to the two of you. Mahalo.
Aloha. Thank you, Kahu. Your song was beautiful. Thank you for that, for Governor Burns. So before we dive in, just let me say thank you. Thank you so much to all of you for coming to honor Governor Burns. And it is a governor's small prerogative to call one quick audible. And if I may humbly ask Governors Ige and Abercrombie to join me and come say a brief story or a thought about Governor Burns. Governors.
Thank you, Josh. Aloha, everybody. This will be the first time a lot of you have heard this, but as unexpected as this opportunity to speak is, perhaps I'll give it a try. I think they're having me up first because I'm looking around the room. I see Ed Hasegawa. I see a whole lot of other people here. There's a few of us that actually voted for John Burns when he first ran. There's a few of us here. I suppose we're talking about legacy, but and the few of us that are here, we're Jack Burns Democrats. We are Jack Burns Democrats. And to the degree or extent that the Democratic Party today can understand the necessity of not just honoring a legacy, but living that legacy in the Democratic Party, the Jack Burns Party, the party that Jack Burns made with all of the folks that committed themselves to what he stood for. I had the opportunity not only to vote for Jack Burns, but a lot again. All of us old time thus artifacts, the ancient ones that are here. Remember that we elected Daniel K. Inouye to the House of Representatives. It was the second time around when he got to the Senate, and that legacy included Jack Burns making clear to all of us. I was just a student at UH. I've come full circle myself now. 65 years ago, Dean, that's when I was a graduate teaching assistant at Crawford Hall, looking up to where we first got a medical facility started, where we grazed cattle up above us in Manoa Valley. And so Jack Burns had a vision then. We were not going to have to send everybody to the mainland to go to law school or to medical school. So in 1986, the legacy that we had there with, at that point, Governor Ben Cayetano can't be with us today because of some medical situations that he's dealing with. But that we brought about the law school and we brought about the medical school in honor of Jack Burns. That's why this name is here today. So I want to just conclude by saying that one of the iron rules of politics is that you need to express the obvious over and over again, because it's the obvious you tend to forget first and take most for granted. Those of us sometimes in the Democratic Party have taken for granted, find ourselves taking for granted our legacy as Democrats. One thing I hope comes out of today's event, and that's something I know that I have reinvigorated myself with, just being able to be here today, is to say that the inspiration that Jack Burns provided for everyone who wanted to see progress and justice, to see that everyone was treated equally, that everybody who had an opportunity was able to exercise that opportunity, to see to it that we had a first class all the way, that spirit of inferiority that he mentioned. Believe me, all of us heard him say that, saying that, no, we have the opportunity here in Hawaii through our aloha spirit with one another to take the Democratic Party into the future that it was meant to bring to all of us because of the legacy of Jack Burns. Thank you so very much. Mahalo nui.
Thanks, Governor, for giving us the opportunity. I never had the opportunity to vote for Jack Burns. I graduated in 1975, but his vision and his legacy clearly is the blueprint for the modern Hawaii that we enjoy today. Hawaii, where we celebrate our diversity and we remember where we came from, and most importantly, we work to ensure that everyone can join us on this journey. You know, my parents grew up on the plantations. My father's education ended at the 8th grade at Eva School. He went and became a construction worker. You know, my mom's education ended at 8th grade also at Kahuku Plantation. And she actually left Hawaii at the age of 15 by herself because she wanted to become a nurse. And she couldn't get into a nursing school here in Hawaii. So she finished high school in Denver, East Denver High School, and she graduated from St. Jude's Nursing College in Denver, Colorado. The vision of Jack Burns was that my mom shouldn't have to go away to continue her education. And it really is heartwarming to see the full vision implemented with the completion of the law school and the middle school. And I think all of us in Hawaii sometimes forget, as Governor Abercrombie mentioned, about the rich legacy and the vision and the direction that Jack Burns provided to all of us. And most importantly, the inspiration for all of us who followed to continue to work to implement his dream, because we know that that's what Hawaii needed and wanted. So thank you to all of those involved with being here today, and thank you to all of those who supported Jack Burns for all of his time in public service.
So aloha. Thank you, guys. Thank you, governors. The truth is that these two gentlemen, our 7th and 8th governors, were able to carry the values and the spirit of Jack Burns and the governors that came subsequently. Those values are what we feel when we come to JABSOM. And it is something that makes our hearts swell in all the right ways when we see young medical students here from Hawaii being able to get their education and being prepared in the greatest and best of ways to care for all of us as we go forward for our ohana. So another round of applause for these governors. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We recognize our senators. Good to see you, Senator, and representatives. Thank you for being here. And I see these events as an opportunity for us to have historical continuity. So I also was not lucky enough to meet Governor Burns and family. Thank you for being here. I was born in the 70s, so I missed that one. However, I couldn't be more grateful for a brief time get to walk alongside his memory, to come here to see JABSOM, to see the legacies that he inspired in all of us, and a little piece breaks off to each colleague, someone they study with, they train with, or they govern with. Some served near him, and we learned from one another. You see a lot of, as Neil teased, some of the legend types, which is his very nice way of saying ancient people. But people who inspired us along the way, and we each take a little something from each of those moments. And so as I get these opportunities very frequently, and then I see someone in their 20s training, maybe their 30s finishing their residency, I know that 10 or 20 years hence, they will be here in some capacity as a dean, perhaps as a professor, as a doc, perhaps as a governor, and they will remember that moment or a piece of history. And so it's just extraordinary. We were very cognizant when I was lucky enough to take over after these two governors to include a great deal of material and quotes from Governor Burns. There was something about the amount of time that had passed and the times that we're facing. These are times of transformation. I fully believe we are wrestling with great challenges in our country, and the transformational era that Governor Burns presided over inspired us. and again has definitely influenced Governors Abercrombie, Governors Ige, and all of the other governors, we believe, in some way or another. So it's fitting that we're here today with young medical students. Many of you are finishing your first year. This is a time that you're transforming also. I remember the end of the first year of medical school with great relief that I hadn't failed out of medical school, so that I could go and become governor of the state of Hawaii, of course. And I feel so grateful that we get to stand here with family, here with friends, to have a moment that celebrates this place, but also healing. I think healing is necessary in this time more than others, and so it's more than fitting to commemorate this 50th anniversary in a way that helps us all heal, as we train our doctors, as we train our nurses, as we just hope to heal much of what the world needs. That's why I was touched by what Kahu said. I think that every opportunity that we have, whether it's our students who go on and do their residency program perhaps before they come back, or we export some of the wisdom that Governor Ige or Governor Abercrombie or Cayetano or Wahey or any of the governors can confer, or just that sense of aloha that we have, which I can tell you is absolutely unique to us, but it is not impossible to transfer a little bit of that to other parts of the world. So thank you, family, for sharing Governor Burns with us all these years, and thank you for letting us honor him, not just with words, but with whatever actions we can conspire to make as Hawaii residents. We love you very much. Congratulations, and it is a great honor to be with you today. Aloha.
We are indeed fortunate to have Dr. Josh Green as our governor during this very trying time. And I want to just express on behalf of everybody in the state our deep appreciation for all the work you're doing to protect Hawaii and this wonderful place with its spirit of aloha. And thank you, Governors Abercrombie and Ige, for being here with us this afternoon. So welcome to the John A. Burns School of Medicine. As we remember the life of Governor Burns, I want to reflect on why, of all the buildings the governor could have chosen, he chose to attach his name to this, the state's lone medical school. There were two very personal reasons. Jim was his son, and Jim's mother was paralyzed with polio 2 years before he was born. All of the doctors who initially treated her were from the continent, and they advised her to abort the birth, citing risk factors. This was not an option for the Burns family, and John found a local healthcare provider to take care of Jim's mother while she was pregnant, and Jim had a healthy birth and went on to serve this state magnificently as a judge. I played softball with him. It was then that John Burns made it a mission to train excellent physicians right here at home. We train doctors here that without this medical school would not have an opportunity to pursue a career in medicine. And we're honored to have some of our outstanding first-year students here with us today. And I hope you take advantage of the opportunity to spend some time with them, because they are truly inspirational, and they are why we do what we do here at the John A. Burns School of Medicine. So with Governor Burns' powerful and persuasive support, our medical school became a reality 60 years ago in 1965. I'd like to think that we have fulfilled the mission of Governor Burns by developing this top-notch medical school that serves the people of the state of Hawaii. For the second year in a row, we've been named a Tier 1 medical school for primary care by U.S. News and World Report. Only 15 other medical schools in the nation hold that top ranking. After retaining that position, we shared the news far and wide, and word got to Susanna Curtis Rhodes, the niece of John Burns. She reached out to us, and I'd like to share a bit of what she wrote. She writes, "My mother, Margaret Mary Burns Curtis, a younger sister of John Burns, was born in Hawaii and wanted to go to nursing school. There were no nursing schools in Hawaii then, and she had to go to the mainland to attend nursing school. She was in Portland when Pearl Harbor was struck, and she feared for both of her brothers, Jack and Edward, who were on the Honolulu police force at the time. My mother went on to join the Navy, serving in the Navy Nurse Corps during World War II. Later, when her brother Jack became governor, she went to him to have a conversation. She told him that it was critical for Hawaii to establish a school of medicine. She said, if our young people have to leave the state to go to medical and nursing school, the likelihood that they will return to take up practice in Hawaii is low. Pointing out studies that reinforce that, she said, we have to do better for the people of Hawaii. And that was the start of the push for a medical school for Hawaii and why it is named for my uncle, John A. Burns. He would have been so proud of the wonderful work all of you are doing to serve the health of the people of Hawaii. As I read this note, I couldn't help but take pride in all that the school has done to honor and carry on the Burns family legacy by caring for the people of Hawaii. As we remember our school's namesake, we have made a generational impact on the state, and it all started with John A. Burns. Thank you.
First thought came to my head was, wow. Just how incredible it is to see everything that he dreamt of, impossible dream, come to fruition. And how beautiful to have that kind of leader with steely resolve to stick to his plan, right? To stick to the story, to not vary, not go or deviate from that, but remain the strong man. As I've seen in the video, what an impressive leader he was. So thank you for your shares. Thank you, governors. Very inspirational as well. Thank you so much. Mahalo. At this time, I'm gonna bring up Brandon Burns to welcome everyone as well. And so I'm gonna just have you come up. He is the son of James Seishiro and Lynette Burns. He has been a teacher and administrator in the Department of Education his entire career. And for the last 17 years, the principal of Ainahaina Elementary School. He also wrote a book, An Aura of Greatness, a reflection of Governor John A. Burns, to share all that he learned from and about his grandfather. Please put your hands together for Brandon.
Well, Governor Green and former Governors Ige and Abercrombie, Dean Shoemaker, Tom Kaufman, honored guests, aloha nui loa, kako, everyone. It's an honor to stand before you today on the campus of the John A. Burns School of Medicine, a little over 50 years after the passing of my grandfather, Governor John A. Burns, who passed away on April 5th, 1975 at 4:05 p.m. in the afternoon. I still remember vividly that somber afternoon when he died at his home in Kailua. I recall seeing family members, including my father, James Seishiro Burns, surrounding him as he lay on his bed as he breathed his last. And as a young boy of nearly 8 years old when he died, and in the days that followed, I could sense the significance of his passing away to the entire state of Hawaii and of the far-reaching impact that his life had had. Reverberations of his life and legacy continue forward today, now 50 years after his passing. This medical school represents the realization of his vision that he had laid out in 1962. In his inaugural speech as governor, he called for the founding of a medical school and law school here in Hawaii. Although he encountered political opposition to this goal, his goal of their creation, he worked hard to make his vision become a reality. And as Dean Shoemaker had mentioned in his remarks, both schools are now doing well with JABSOM rated by U.S. News and World Report in the top tier of all medical schools in the nation. And this year, the John A. Burns School of Medicine is celebrating its 60th anniversary. As Governor Burns' grandson, knowing him as a kid and growing up in a family that would often discuss his life and legacy, I've gained a deep appreciation for the man he was and the indelible mark he left on Hawaii. I often heard stories about his leadership style, learned of the values he stood for, and witnessed the fruition of his vision, which surround us every day, and I write about this in my book about him, An Aura of Greatness. One of the individuals I mentioned speaking to in my book is here with us today, and I would like to recognize him and his wife. He was the gardener at Washington Place during and after my grandfather's administration, Lefty Shimabuku, and his wife, Millie. You can stand and be recognized. Lefty is a very youthful, 93 years old, and he still drives. And he sometimes stops by my school, Ainahaina Elementary, to visit me and to talk about his wonderful memories of my grandparents with me. So thanks for coming. Yes, my grandfather did possess what some called an aura of greatness, but it wasn't from seeking fame. He was a humble man, often shunning the spotlight, being truly a workhorse and not a show horse. He didn't care about publicizing his efforts, believing it was the game, not the name, that mattered to him. This humility, combined with his fierce integrity and straightforwardness, permeated throughout his life and leadership. His courage was evident throughout his life. During the challenging days of World War II as a police captain, he took a politically risky stance, publicly stating his belief in the loyalty of the Japanese community when others harbored fear and suspicion. He is credited as one of the individuals who kept many of the Japanese community in Hawaii during World War II from being placed into internment camps. And he also showed remarkable resilience and determination, overcoming personal hardships and political defeats, always driven to achieve his goals. He worked hard as territorial delegate to Congress to achieve statehood for Hawaii in 1959. But perhaps his most enduring legacy is his limitless vision for Hawaii and his unwavering faith in its people. He fought and spoke against any subtle inferiority of spirit, reminding everyone that they were as good as the next guy and equal to anyone, anywhere. He envisioned transforming Hawaii from a closed, oligarchic society to one that was open and egalitarian, a place where diverse cultures thrived and everyone had the opportunity to succeed. His hope was for a Hawaii where the feeling was that we are one people, we are one state. He saw Hawaii not just as a beautiful place, but as America's young, living, throbbing heart of the Pacific, a bridge between East and West, a Geneva and Athens of the Pacific, existing as a center for culture, education, and commerce, embodying the vision of the East-West Center, which he helped to found with his close friend and mentor, Lyndon Johnson. At his core, my grandfather was a servant leader. He dedicated his entire life, his total energies, his whole being to Hawaii's people, being driven by an abiding love for them. To him, serving in politics as both territorial delegate to Congress and as governor of Hawaii was a spiritual quest of service to others to make their lives better. This spiritual quest was rooted in his strong religious faith. He was very much a spiritually awakened individual, as exhibited by his empathy, compassion, and desire to contribute positively to Hawaii and the world. His faith was described as a very private and personal thing that was still very much a part of his policies. He showed his faith in the way he lived his life, particularly through social consciousness and helping the less fortunate. He believed strongly that the best way to improve the economy was through investment in Hawaii's people through providing educational opportunities and work training. This strong belief led him to create the community colleges in our state and to increase funding for public education and for the University of Hawaii. He excelled at building relationships, particularly with his grassroots supporters, the Sparrows, spending countless hours listening and making them feel that he embodied their hopes and aspirations. When meeting with people in small groups, he would ask questions, and conversations would go on for a long time. He never gave a sense of hurriedness in these conversations, which allowed space for others to express their thoughts. And this quality of being present and unhurried in his interactions could be seen as related to a mindful way of engaging with others. He was a leader far ahead of his time by practicing this aspect of mindfulness. And today, 50 years later, we live in a Hawaii that was fundamentally shaped by his tireless work, his courage, his limitless vision, and his deep love for its people. As we reflect on his legacy today, let us remember his example of service, his commitment to equality, and his boundless faith in the potential of Hawaii. The journey he started is one we must continue. Let us strive to carry on his legacy and build an even brighter future for our beloved state. Thank you.
It brings to mind one of my favorite quotes in regards to service. And this is a quote that goes deep for me. It's by Rabindranath Tagore. And he says within this poem, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. And it's a really important thing for you to breathe in, to receive, because only through our actions do we create that bit of harmony, that understanding that if we are of service to others, then we are contributing to the health and wholeness of all. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Brandon. Thank you so much. Mahalo. At this time, hang on, let me get the right page here. Okay. Oh, it's my turn. I have to read a letter. Okay. So I'm going to read a letter that was sent by President Barack Obama honoring, how could I forget that? Honoring Governor Burns. So, aloha. Governor Burns gave much in the way of leadership and vision in Hawaii. He was instrumental in establishing a system of community colleges, a school of medicine, a school of law, and a space of international relations and peace building, the East-West Center, where my mother studied and my sister once worked. These robust pillars of education have impacted many generations in Hawaii and elsewhere in the Asian Pacific. As a champion of athletes and first-generation higher education students, as well as an advocate for women's reproductive rights, Governor Burns envisioned a Hawaii where every individual could dare to dream and achieve for their highest aspirations, regardless of their resources and chosen paths. For that reason, and many others, I am pleased to join all of you in celebrating the enduring legacy of John Anthony Burns, Barack Obama. So at this time, I am going to introduce our keynote address, or our speaker, Tom Kaufman. So he first met Governor Burns in 1968 as a newspaper reporter and covered him for the next 4 years, including his final 1970 campaign, which resulted in the book To Catch a Wave. He has spent the last 50 years researching and writing about Hawaii and our history, stories which Burns' life and influence weave through regularly. Please welcome Tom Kaufman.
It's a great honor to be up here today. I'm also the seventh speaker, and if you can imagine, you've prepared this talk, and all sorts of smart people who shared some of my experiences and values and stories have spoken wonderfully, but bear with me. I promise something that's a little more granular and a little closer up. How's that? Based on, I wrote Catch a Wave. I covered Governor Burns. I wrote Catch a Wave. I've since written 2 other books in which he figured very extensively. So in my life as a writer, he comes up like this mountain of importance and influence and source of stories. I should have said honored guests, honored governors, dean, and so on, Governor Green. Thanks for going to Washington for us in the tradition of Governor Burns. Aloha kako. Aloha on a day of reflection and celebration. A powerful force ran through the many works of John Anthony Burns, and that was his devotion to the inherent quality, equality, dignity, and potential of all of us and of all people. He understood in his bones that the barriers to human progress were both racial and class-based. His father was an Army sergeant, deployed to Hawaii in 1913 when young Jack was 4 years old. The Burns family first lived in a tent at Fort Shafter, then moved to a rental in Kalihi surrounded by local people. These were predominantly displaced Hawaiians who had moved into Honolulu after the annexation, and Japanese who had managed to become independent of the plantations. His childhood story was about a saintly mother who counseled the poor and the hurting, and a troubled father who abandoned him and the family, never to be seen again. As a teenager, sometimes truant, sometimes getting into scrapes, young Jack Burns was sent to an uncle in Kansas to work on his farm and also to work on growing up. Thereafter, he briefly served in the peacetime army and then returned to Hawaii. One of his stories was about playing on a basketball team of high school dropouts. When they played against a team of college athletes, he was nearly ejected for rough play, which he took pride in. He rationalized this by saying somebody had to make our guys remember they were just as good as the other guys. And his team, he recalled, won that game. He took a brief run at college and then dropped out. Not being of the elite class, white privilege escaped him. He worked for dairymen. When he applied for a plantation job, he sensed he was at first received warmly, meaning as a fellow haole, until the interviewer found out that he was from Kalihi. He joined the Honolulu Police Department, hoping that he could rise on merit. On his IQ test, he scored 157. During the 1930s, he went quickly from patrolman to detective to sergeant to lieutenant to acting captain. As tensions between the United States and Japan intensified, he was assigned to lead a 4-man investigative team under the direction of the FBI to assess the likely loyalties of Hawaii's Japanese community in the event of war. And it is at this nexus that he intersected with the deep undercurrents of Hawaii's formative past. I did an interview with him in which he clearly wanted me, above all, to understand the meaning of this crisis, in which he and a handful of others waged a struggle behind the scenes for reason and fair play. Do the right thing, and Hawaii will make it through. Do the wrong thing, and the future of Hawaii will be blackened for endless time. In November 1941, pushed by rumors of a pending martial law, he famously wrote the column in the Honolulu Star Bulletin, vouching for the Japanese community and warning against military rule. While the morning newspaper was still using the word Jabs, he convinced the afternoon Star Bulletin to use AJA, Americans of Japanese ancestry. An itinerant writer for Collier's magazine described him as, at this time, as having his ear closer to the ground and of having a fuller knowledge of the acts and thoughts of Americans whose parents are foreign-born than anyone else in Hawaii. This was in 1941. His credibility was enhanced by his firsthand knowledge of both Nisei loyalty and internal security. He reported to the first national inquiry on the Pearl Harbor disaster about the rumors of sabotage that were sweeping the U.S. continent, the supposed flares and signal lights and radio transmissions that enabled Japan to attack with such devastating results. With specifics, he debunked these rumors point by point. This particular affidavit was part of an organized plea from Hawaii for the national government to get its facts straight and to quiet the toxic lie of an enemy within. If Washington had listened, there might not have been the mass relocation of 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry from the West Coast states. He was a key force in organizing people, plantation by plantation, to trust one another and work together in the duress of war. At the dozens of plantation camp meetings, everyone was encouraged to speak up. In his written report, Burns cited a plantation worker who frequently used the word Japs. After participating for a month, this man announced, "You Japanese are okay." If the opportunity is taken and pushed, Burns wrote, equal opportunity prevails for everyone, regardless of race. Although he was sometimes described at least, as brusque, and to watch events from the back of the room, he spoke with great intensity to small groups. In a surviving manuscript, he quotes from the Declaration of Independence on what it means to be an American. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Imagine this. He tells the plantation workers that they were just like his Irish ancestors. They had come to America, he said, to find freedom. Having grown up as he did, having played such a large role in the war, we might say, and the rest is history. But let me touch briefly on some of the things that other speakers referred to, in which his life experiences played onto the public stage, all relating to the core values of building community around inclusivity and equality. Despite having a polio-disabled wife and 3 children, he resigned from the security of the HPD to organize the post-war Democratic Party. When the International Longshore and Warehousemen's Union, the ILWU, shut down the plantations in 1946 and shut down the waterfront in 1949, he stood by them when their leadership was rounded up in the Smith Act trials of the early 1950s. At the height of the red baiting, he went to Washington to argue they were union people, not communists. His steadfastness cemented union members with the returning war veterans, who together broke the political grip of the white oligarchy in what 7 decades later we still call the Revolution of 1954. Elected territorial delegate to Congress, he bonded with Senator Lyndon Johnson, a person of parallel intensity and egalitarian passions, to make Hawaii the first truly multi-ethnic state. When elected governor in 1962, he firmly broke down the vestiges of racial barriers. The interlocking directorates of the Big Five boards were quietly dissolved by his attorney general. When he was invited to join the Pacific Club, he famously declined, citing its exclusionary policy. It was one of those many letters that he wrote that he closed by saying, "May the Almighty be with you and yours." The Pacific Club quickly transformed itself into the interracial meeting place that it is today. He actually campaigned on a promise that in the debate between the child and the dollar, the child comes first. That is, he ran on raising taxes to pay for improved public education, which he did. With Lyndon Johnson, again, he founded the East-West Center. It was in the face of intense opposition, which I remember quite clearly. He stubbornly opposed out-of-state tuition at the university on the belief that out-of-state students would be enlightened and spread the beliefs and practices of Hawaii around the globe. When he proposed a law school and a medical school, opponents argued in the name of cost benefit, and a few of you recall, that these were niceties that a small state could not afford. Burns insisted that the law and medical schools were a matter of opening equal opportunity in the professions. And I believe that in his success, it transformed the character of our community further. Of all and much more that could be said, I want to suggest that history is a sort of river with many currents, and that we not assign him to the numbing realms of perfection. As a headstrong young political reporter, perhaps too young, I sometimes conflicted with him and wrote articles critical of certain policies, and I rebelled against his habit of drawing reporters off the record. He did once say famously, "Any damn fool can take a stand," right? I know he believed in redemption, because in moments he would open the door to me and reach out, not merely to talk, but to get a hold of my thoughts and my emotions. When he gave his controversial speech, calling on people to forego a subtle inferiority of spirit, I led my story with that phrase in my front page banner story, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, "You got that one right." When I was writing my book, he talked to me for 6 solid hours, unbroken, about Hawaii's history. Weighted down by his profoundly Catholic conscience, he spoke with me on the afternoon of the lonely night of his deadline to decide on the first decriminalization of abortion in the United States. What did it matter what I thought? We spoke about our kids. The memory of him challenges us to constantly look into who we are, to understand how history is shaping us, and to struggle for a better life obstinately, based on his truth that all of us are indeed created equal, deserving of dignity and the opportunity to fulfill our highest and best aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Mahalo. There are lots of people who could have been asked to add memories of Governor and Mrs. Burns, many of them well known and with very impressive titles. Those that we chose were those who had deeply personal and rich contact and memories, each from a different and very human vantage point. They include their granddaughter, Meredith, longtime campaign worker Ed Hasegawa, and Marcus Oshiro, the son of Burns's campaign manager Bob Oshiro. Meredith Burns is a granddaughter of John and Beatrice Burns and daughter of James Seishiro and Lynette Burns. She is an attorney in the public sector, and she is very pleased to have had the opportunity to speak about her grandmother, and perhaps both grandparents as well, yeah? Maybe? Mostly grandma? Okay, wait. And then, secondly, I'm going to do the bios first, and then you can come up. So Ed Hasegawa was a tireless campaigner for Governor Burns and others, the Sparrows, as Burns' campaign manager would call them. He was a lifetime public servant in the Department of Education. And then lastly, Marcus Oshiro is the son of Robert Oshiro, Burns' campaign manager. And as he put it, Burns was the bigger part of the lives of his dad, his mother Ruth, and himself. He spent 23 years representing Wahiawa in the State House and another 7 on the Labor Relations Board. Please put your hands together for Meredith Burns.
Hello, everyone. I don't often speak publicly, but when Brendan said, "Can you say something about Grandma?" I was like, yes, I can. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. It's really an honor. So I'm honored to say a few words about my grandma, Beatrice Majors Burns. Of course, this event is to celebrate Grandpa, and he deserves to be celebrated and remembered. But to me, in my life, it's always been about Grandma. She is the one who inspires me, and my memories of her and how she lived her life give me strength and courage to persevere when the going gets tough. I'd like to thank upfront Dan Boylan and T. Michael Holmes for their book, John A. Burns, The Man in Its Times. Grandma told me many of the stories about her life that are recounted in the book. I believe they were definitive stories for her. So what is it about her beyond being my grandma, and who doesn't love their grandmas, right? Well, she was born on the mainland in 1906, a member of the greatest generation. Her father was a teacher, and they moved a lot. Grandma told me that as a woman of her generation, she had 2 career choices. She could be a nurse or she could be a teacher. And she thought being a nurse would allow her to travel and see the world, so she became an Army nurse. When she listed her top choices for transfer, she ranked our fair island of Hawaii as number 1. As recounted by Dan Boylan, when she learned she was assigned to Hawaii, she almost turned handsprings in the head nurse's office. And that is how she described it to me, too. She was absolutely overjoyed. In 1930, not long after arriving in Hawaii, she met Grandpa when she was 24 years old. They married a year later. This was during the Great Depression. They were poor. Money was tight. And one thing I've thought about a lot over the years, when Grandpa was busy doing all that he was doing, who was helping Grandma? Again, Dan Boylan's book, quoting Grandma, she said, "He was never at home, and I was alone. This was true most of our married life." And I think about that level of sacrifice, and I guess I'd like all of you to think about it too. I'm not sure if it was Grandma who said this, but I know that she understood that although he loved his family, Grandpa belonged to Hawaii. Now, that would be hard under any circumstances. She was often alone. They were struggling financially. They were eventually raising 3 children with your husband belonging to Hawaii. But my grandma had something else, polio. From the age of 29, she was paralyzed, eventually from the waist down. She couldn't walk from 1935. So even when I was a child in the 70s, accommodations were extremely rare. The world was not wheelchair friendly. But did Grandma ever complain or ever even mention her disability? No, she got on with it. As acknowledged in Dan Boylan's book, Throughout her private and public life, B. Burns showed not the slightest hint of self-pity. That is absolutely true. Grandma outlived Grandpa by about 13 years. Grandma told my cousin Haunani here today that when Grandpa died, it was like losing her right arm and more. But as always, she carried on. I'd like to close by reflecting on how Grandma exhibited the same values and behavior, no matter what her role. This is something I think about a lot too. Grandma was unassuming, gracious and welcoming, warm and encouraging, peaceful and steady, witty and intelligent, creative, artistic, very kind, and absolutely charming, often with a twinkle in her eye. And she was always totally and completely herself. I'm really grateful to have known her. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for all that you do, every one of you. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about my beloved Grandma. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meredith. Ed Hasigawa, please come forward. Please put your hands together for Ed.
You know, it's almost difficult for me to even stand here in the presence of all these people that have spoken before me. Today I'd like to just share a couple occasions during the campaign when he became governor. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge Mrs. Burns. My job in the campaign after a while was to be her driver to coffee hours. And I want you to know that she was, a most gracious person. She was such an excellent campaigner. And I'm blessed to have been a part of her life. I want to talk about Johnny Burns. In the campaign, in primary, I campaigned for a fellow Big Island person, Ernest Sky, who ran for lieutenant governor. And I was a student of, what's his name? Anyway, this professor at the university. And after all the time that I spent on the campaign, I went back to him and I said, I'm ready to give you my report. And he said, I'm sorry. You need to talk to me about someone who won the primary. And so I had to look out there to see who do I talk to? Who do I get involved? I was really involved now, Big Island boy, yeah. And so I decided to go to John A. Burns' campaign headquarters. And the first person I met there was Jimmy. And Jimmy and I sat down and talked. And I explained to him that I had a responsibility to campaign for a winner. And so Jimmy and I spent a lot of time talking to each other. And then one day I told Jimmy, I need to have some time to talk to your dad so I can write my report. Dan Tuttle was the guy's name. Dan Tuttle was a professor. And so Jimmy, he's the guy that set it up so I could go see Governor Burns. I walked into his office. He pulled aside his chair in front of his desk, set me right across from him, person to person. And I was just blown away because Burns to me was a huge person, He was just not only a huge person, he was tall, compared to me. But anyway, an opportunity to sit down with him. And so the first thing he did with me was say, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I told him about I was a Big Island boy. I went to Honoka'a High School. I went into the service, came back to the university. That was my way of getting out early from the service. I went in November, and this was already August. So I signed up, and the university accepted me. So I became an undergraduate at the university, and that was the beginning of my life as far as education. But anyway, as I sat and I talked to him about Big Island and all of that, he just sat and listened, really listened. And then he talked about what he'd like to see for the Big Island, because I was a Big Island person. But the first thing he said to me was, I just want you to know that the next governor of the state of Hawaii is going to be a local boy. And I want you to know that Governor Burns was as local as any local boy, okay? But he wanted the next person to be a local boy, born and raised in Hawaii. And I thought of a number of people that could have been governor, and all of them were prominent people. And that person that became the next governor was Governor Ariyoshi. And then, Ariyoshi and Waihe'e, Ben Kayetau, they were all local boys. Until Linda Lingle became governor. And then we went back to another local boy. No, a local person. There was Neil Abercrombie. And Neil, I used to see Neil in the coffee hour. We used to have coffee hours. I got to befriend Barack Obama's dad. He and I were in the speech class together. And we'd go to the snack bar and we'd sit down with Neil. Neil was a grad assistant, and we'd sit down and talk. And so that was, I'm digressing a little bit, but, just to let you know. And then I took this class on Dentaro. I went there and I became and he told me this first report doesn't work, so you get an. And so I sat down with the governor, and the governor said the next governor is going to be a local boy for sure. And then he talked about the Big Islands. He said, I love Kamo'ela. I love Waimea, Kamo'ela. But he said, and I would have put the University of Hawaii in Kamo'ela, But he said, I had to understand that a large population of the Big Island came from Kukuihaile, the whole Hamakua coast, through Hilo to Ka'u. And so he said, I need to support the university in Hilo because it was a central place. And that was one of the things. Then he went on to say, the Big Island, the place that's going to open up is the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is the Kona Coast, where all the hotels came up. And that was what he talked about, the development of the Kona Coast. He talked about improving the highway from Hilo to Honoka'a so that you could go to the Gold Coast. And that was, and he, and he went on and talked about the Big Island, but he's just so personable with me. I became a Burns person. And one of the role I played in the campaign was, because I was an undergraduate, they made me coordinator of the University of Hawaii for Burns. I had no idea what that meant. But what he had was all the college professors that were his supporters, and go to a snack bar and they would tell me what to do, and they did. They did. And so I became the coordinator. I didn't do much. I just did what I could. But the other thing that I think who I was in a campaign was one of the young Sparrows. The Sparrows was a program of campaign workers that worked in the background, went out into the field, talked to people, did whatever we could, you know. And that was my introduction to him. And so I became a Burns Democrat. And I've been one since. And then the other thing I just want to share, because I'm limited in time here, I could go on, and was that in the evening of the campaign, when the voters came in, the counts were in, and they announced that John A. Burns was the next governor of the state of Hawaii, I said, whoa, that's great, you know. And then Governor Burns, this is how he entered the place. He didn't enter from the front to the stage. He came around the backside, walked all along the hallway, talking to all the people that were sparrows and grassroots people. And then he moved out to the stage and to thank the people. That was who he was for me. And I just wanted to share that he was a gift. He really was a gift. The other one thing I want to leave before that's pretty much it. But, you know, it's so, when I looked at all the presenters, I said, wow, you know. Then, geez, I lost my touch, man. I was just so blessed by working for a person like John A. Burns. He was a gift. You know, if he was alive today, I would ask, what would you say to the people? And one of the things he would say is, Hawaii is the center of the universe. The makeup of the people, the interaction, integration is a gift. And he said, you know, Hawaii would be the true peace center of the Pacific, the world. And that we have a relationship, the people of Hawaii represents all the different places of the world, Japan, Philippines, so on, U.S. And so I think the next gift that is of him is to have the peace center in Hawaii for the world. Thank you very much.
Marcus Oshiro, please come forward. He said he's selling his shirt to the highest bidder.
Well, thank you very much, Governors Abercrombie, Ige, Green. I'm going to be a little bit more informal than the other speakers, only because when I look out and I see so many familiar faces, I feel like a gathering of an old campaign, whether it's from the Burns time or from Ariyoshi or Waihe. We've all met before or been engaged in this thing called politics and through campaigning. So let me thank Jimmy Toyama, Brandon Burns, and Robbie Am, really, for bringing us together like this. This is such a wonderful time. I'm seeing old friends, making new ones, and former colleagues, people I worked with, did the hard lifting, like Governor Abercrombie, Governor Ige, Governor Green. There's some senators back there. I see Senator Morikawa. I saw a Representative Marayoshi. Who else is out there? But these are, Greg Takayama, way back there. Hi, Greg. But these are the ones currently doing the hard lifting. And I want to thank you folks for all the work you guys are doing. I'm going to stick to my script like my mentor there, Mr. Kaufman. So I've been asked to share some thoughts about my father, Robert C. O'Shea's relationship with Governor Burns. But as we all know, much has been written about their relationship, so my remarks will be a little bit different, and they arise from the experience and observation as a young boy and teenager growing up in Wahiawa, growing up in a politically engaged family in the 1960s and 1970s. I first met Governor Burns at our home in Wahiawa when I was about 5 or 6 years old. The occasion escapes me, but the memory remains vivid. A gathering of distinguished guests, dressed in formal attire, filling our home with lively conversations and celebration. A carnival tent stood outside in our yard. Tiki torches burned brightly, and rows of luau tables hosted an atmosphere of camaraderie. In the midst of it all stood Governor John A. Burns, the tall, thin, howly man who spoke perfect pidgin. He towered among most in the room, small Asian people. A red carnation lay around his neck, but a presence that commanded attention like a movie star in an Elvis movie. His voice carried that unique cadence of Hawaii, a connection not just to the land, but to the people. He spoke not the Queen's English, but the people's English, pidgin. That night, as he reached down to shake my hand and greeted me, he said, "Hello, young man. You must be Bob's son. Good to meet you." Then turning to my father, he joked, "Hey, Bob, your boy, he doesn't talk much, eh? He must be just like you, maybe." He said that with a grin and a smile as he tousled my hair with his large hand. That was my first meeting with Governor Burns. It wasn't just a fleeting introduction, folks. It was a moment that really reflected his ability to connect, to truly see people, to make them feel valued. And my father saw something in him too. Not just a politician, but a leader whose vision would shape Hawaii's future for generations to come. For about 10 years, my father worked alongside Governor Burns in shaping public policy as a member of the State House of Representatives, leading social justice and equal opportunity as Democratic Party chairman, and advancing Governor Burns' vision for Hawaii as a campaign volunteer. Describing himself as a sparrow, my father had an almost religious conviction of faith in Governor Burns. He was one of several disciples who left other endeavors and activities to preach the message that Governor Burns is leading Hawaii into the promised land. My father sacrificed time with his family, law business, and even his health because he knew the future Governor Burns envisioned for Hawaii was worth it. My father's fervor to Governor Burns is reflected in the book of Luke. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And my mother, who is here this afternoon, remembers that awful phone call. The moment we learned my father had rushed to Queen's Hospital, nearly slipping into a diabetic coma after neglecting his own health in the middle of the 1970 campaign. He gave everything he had because he believed in something greater than himself, and that was Governor Burns. As a son, there were days that I would never see my father. He would come home late at night, but I would only hear him. He would open the kitchen door, drop off his shoes, go down the hallway, creaking a little bit, close the bedroom door, some chatter with my mom, and then lights would go out. And before dawn, he was back on the road again. On weekends, when the campaign wasn't in full swing, I saw a bit of him. We did yard work together, cleaning the koi pond, patching the roof with hot tar, wiring a new socket, or replacing worn-out washers on a leaking faucet. The real stuff, the stuff of blue collar, people working with their hands, getting dirty. My father wanted me to understand this. But during the campaign season, especially in the Burns 70 campaign, our headquarters became our home. That's where I spent most of the time with my father and all the volunteers there. There were some nights he would return home early. We would sit at the kitchen table, myself, my mother, and my two sisters. And he would tell us about the small victories of the day, the conversations, the decisions, the moments that mattered. I really didn't understand them all, and sometimes they're way over my head. But I remember at times he would get loud, and he would get emphatic. And then my mom would give him the look like, and he would quiet down. One evening stands out. I stayed up later than usual to ask him for some spending money for the weekend. But before I could ask him, he burst through the door, and as if continuing a conversation he was having with someone else, he said to me, "Mark, Governor Burns is fighting for something bigger than politics. He's fighting for people. This is what this campaign is all about. It's about people, their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations." A lot of that was echoed today by the previous speakers. But that's where that expression comes from. Governor Burns. My dad never didn't just support Governor Burns. He was a true believer. Tom, I believe my dad was a disciple of the master politician of Hawaii. And as a kid, I would be so impressed that he would be so comfortable in a room of strangers. He spoke from the heart plainly. You guys heard him. He was brutally blunt and honest sometimes about the campaign status. Sharon's over there remembers that. But I believe he left campaigners more encouraged. My father's late-night strategy sessions never faltered in service to Governor Burns. For he knew that Governor Burns' vision was the right course for all the people of Hawaii. And let me share this with you also. And I think Brendan spoke about this. He lived a very simple life. Very simple. My mother recalls how she and my father would have dinner at Burns' home in Kailua. Just the four of them. It was a long drive from Wahiawa, but the single-family home they lived in Kailua was neat and cozy. Nothing fancy. My mother tells me, Meredith, that Mrs. Burns would prepare great meals, and Governor Burns would help by setting the table and cleaning up after the meals. My mother found those intimate dinners endearing, as Governor Burns displayed the doting husband he was to Mrs. Burns. She was an excellent cook, baker, and gracious host. So, my parents' relationship with Governor Burns and the First Lady was personal. It was genuine. So there is no wonder why my father did in all these campaigns for Burns. Let me close with a final personal note, since we're among friends. You're all part of my family. Many of you may not know that I retired recently, last year in October. And last month, I celebrated my 66th birthday. So in preparing for this remembrance of Governor Burns, I went through my father's newspaper files and clippings. And among them, I found a Hawaii Tribune Herald article, a headline that read, "John A. Burns succumbs at 66. I never thought of that before. That he died at such a young age. For me, it was a wake-up call and stark reminder of how fleeting our time together is. It was then that I reconsidered my earlier text to my friend Robbie Am when I asked him to leave me off the program. Fortunately, Robbie was gracious enough to say, "Oh, of course, we want you back." So this gathering is more than a remembrance and celebration of the great man. It's been personal to myself and my family. And ironically, while being here today honoring Governor Burns and his family, I'm able to reconciliate with my father. Short story. At 14, I was more interested in chasing waves, chasing girls, having fun. And I did not like the comparison of living in a community under the shadow of a political leader. So when I was told several days before Governor Burns' service to press my pants, polish my shoes, and get ready to go to town, yeah, no worry, I got it. No big deal, I thought. As fate would have it, I forgot. I spent the whole day cruising the North Shore with my friends, blissfully unaware of my mistake. High as a kite, free as a bird. But when I returned home at sunset, rounding the corner to our house, I noticed our two-car garage empty. I knew something was amiss. I knew something was terribly wrong. Stepping inside, I found a note from my mother on the kitchen table. "Mark, where were you? We waited. Governor Burns' service? Dad is very disappointed. Mom." The words hit me hard. My stomach dropped. I think I whispered something under my breath. Something like, "Duck." Duck. Duck. I went outside to the patio, sat down, just very upset. An hour passed, and then finally I heard the car come down the driveway. No one spoke to me when they came out. Then my mother appeared at the patio door. "Mark, what happened? Did you forget?" And then without waiting for an answer, she added, "You better come inside and apologize to your dad." So I did, sheepish, ashamed, filled with regret. I walked down the hallway to my parents' bedroom. My father sat in a chair watching TV. He had already changed into his shorts and t-shirt. "Dad," I said, "I'm sorry. I just forgot." He didn't respond. He just took a deep drag of his cigarette, exhaled, and slowly shook his head. He didn't even look at me. I was like a ghost to him. I turned away and went to my bedroom. We didn't speak for several weeks, and I avoided him coming home when he was asleep or knowing he was already out. That went on until my birthday, when my mother forced us together over cake and ice cream. No words were exchanged about the service, just candles and song and slices of cake and ice cream. But life carried on, and slowly the weight of disappointment faded into something unspoken. Still, for many years, I carried that feeling of having let him down. And if any of you have ever disappointed your parents, you sons with your fathers, or you daughters with your mothers, you know that lingering weight of regret that doesn't go away. And after all, I understood Governor Burns was more than a politician to my father. He was a mentor, he was a friend and confidant, and he was the political father of my father. In the years that followed, I became more engaged in campaigns my father volunteered for because of Burns. The breakthrough of Ariyoshi, and then the breakthrough of Waihee, the local boys becoming governor. But those events and stories are for another day and time. But they have their genesis, their beginnings, in the vision of Burns. In closing, again, let me thank the organizers, Jimmy Toyama, Brandon Burns, and Ravi Am. I'd also like to thank my wife, Lazanne Fang Oshiro, for her critical editing. And likewise, thank you to my mother, Ruth Oshiro, for generously sharing some mementos from Governor Burns' campaign. And they're out in the lobby. Please help yourself. She only asks that you take what you need, and what you take, you share with your family, and you pass them on to the next generations in remembrance of Governor Burns. Long live Governor John A. Burns. Let it live in our hearts and minds forever. Mahalo nui loa. God bless all of you.
Beautiful words from all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. To perform for us, to share some of Governor Burns' favorite songs. One of the great gifts that we have, that I have as a musician as well, is to share love through music. And it's very, very important in the way that we convey the message through our focus, our attention on the song itself, the composer, and the way that we deliver the message through my voice or through the flute and piano is very, very important. It moves people in a way that we can walk away from a gig and never know how much it has an effect on the people that had just heard us perform. And that is magical. And it's something that once I'm done with the song, once our musicians are done with the song, we leave the venue and we leave whatever it is that needs to ruminate within those who just witnessed the event. So music is quite powerful. These are a couple of Governor Burns and Mrs. Burns' favorite songs. For Governor Burns, it was a song called Beautiful Kahana, which many of us, including myself, I wasn't too familiar with until this event. So I'm excited to hear it from you. The second, which is Mrs. Burns' favorite song, was Kupua Ipao Kalani, which is definitely one of my favorite songs. Because why the Queen wrote it from her perch in her prison, where she wrote this song from, what she was able to see outside of the window, and reminisce of her time in her garden. And so that song means a lot to me. This time, to perform these songs, we are honored to invite Herb Lee up to the front here to share his musicianship, his mana through music. And I am excited to receive that from you. So please come forward, Herb. Herb Kawai Piolani Lee Jr. Mahalo.
Aloha, everybody. Wow, I'm super inspired. That was just wonderful. Full disclosure, I was born before statehood, and I had the opportunity to vote at least one time for Governor Burns. These two songs, I knew of them. I haven't played them a lot in my life, but when Robbie called me and said, "Can you do this song?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And then he called me a couple of weeks later and said, "Oh, can you do this song?" I said, Sure. It really is my honor. And I had an opportunity to talk with Brendan Burns a couple of weeks ago to kind of get some background. And of course, so what I want you guys to do as I share this song, I'm going to do the first one, Beautiful Kahana, for Johnny Burns. If you can just imagine, and thank you, Kahu, for sharing the importance of being able to share a song like this and why it's important. And we all, being from Hawaii, no matter if you're Hawaiian or not, we all have a kuleana. We all are able to connect to places in Hawaii that feed that aloha, that power inside of our soul. And I think that for these two songs, in researching these songs and the background of them, I can only imagine that Governor Burns and Mrs. Burns, how they connected to Hawaii through these songs. And I'm hoping that through the songs that I share today, that it can inspire you to reach in your own self to figure out where are those connections for you that fulfill you and fill you with aloha that is uniquely Hawaii. Yeah? The mana of Hawaii. And I'm thinking, why beautiful Kahana? Now, have any of you ever been to Kahana Valley? So as I'm singing this song, you can close your eyes if you want, but think about going over to the Pali and going over to the windward side. It's in the district of Ko'olauloa to Kahana Valley. And think about the beauty of that place. Think about the wind that blows. Think about the rain that falls. I remember Kahana as one of those last places where the community still went to Kahana Bay to do hukila. Remember? All the community would go out and hukila and bring fish in, things like that. That's my memories of Kahana Bay. And Pau Kalani, oh my goodness. I read some of the stories of the Queen. These are, I think, maybe 7 or 8 songs that she actually wrote while she was in prison. And Evelyn Townsend Wilson voluntarily, one of her best friends, voluntarily also spent time 8 months with the Queen in the palace. And so you guys, thank you for the story that's been published in the thing. I'm not going to go through that, but so without further ado. Mauloa no Mahalo nui Miko kahana, everybody. Eka gentle breeze upon my name. Oh, hallelujah, Mayana, Hiau. Mahalo. Thank you.
All right. What a blessing it was today, I think, for me to be here, for all of you to be here, just to listen to the stories, to feel that essence, that beauty of love that everyone had shared. Thank you so much, Herb, once again, for sharing the beautiful songs. I'm going to invite Brendan to come up and give the mahalos from himself and the ohana at this time, and then get ready to sing Hawaii Aloha, okay? Here we go.
Well, this was a very emotional and overwhelming time for you, for all of us. I think many of us probably shed a tear or two or felt a heart tug, but it was just been very emotional time for me, and it's just been a very special time. And I want to really thank all the speakers. You guys were terrific. And on behalf of my family, my sister Meredith Burns, my auntie Haunani Burns, and my wife Pat, other members of the Burns Ohana, want to express our deepest gratitude for your presence at this 50th commemoration event of my grandfather's passing. And seeing so many of you here dedicated to remembering my grandfather's life and legacy is truly heartwarming. We're incredibly thankful to Governor Green for his remarks, and also to Governor Abercrombie, Governor Ige, to Dean Shoemaker for his remarks, and to the awesome JABSOM staff for hosting us here at JABSOM. Kao Souza for guiding our gathering and for singing, Tom Kaufman for sharing his wonderful historical insights, and the panelists Ed Hasegawa, Marcus Oshiro, along with my sister Meredith, for sharing tremendous memories and thought-provoking stories. Thank you also to Herb Lee for the beautiful music and songs, and the special music by Emmy and Marcus that started us out as well. And I would also like to thank the members of the Burns 50th Commemoration Committee for their countless volunteer hours dedicated to making this event happen today. Committee members, please stand and be recognized. Thank you also to those who donated financially to make this event happen today. Thank you again for being here to honor my grandfather, Governor John A. Burns, and your presence is a testament to the enduring impact of his caring heart and his vision for a better Hawaii. And I wanted to mention that outside with all the Burns memorabilia and things, there was a Oahu County Democrats resolution which commemorated the 50th anniversary of my grandfather's passing, and so you can take a look at it out there. Also was presented by a special coin which has my grandfather's image on it, and so it's a very special memento to me. So thank you for those that share those items with me, and you can take a look at the proclamation as well by the Oahu County Democrats. My grandfather's leadership philosophy was driven by commitment to democratic ideals, social justice, and economic opportunity for all, executed through courageous action, strategic relationship building, visionary thinking, humble dedication, unwavering integrity, and a foundational belief in service to the people he led, and an abiding love for the people and state of Hawaii. He believed that the ultimate test of a leader was leaving behind the conviction and will in others to carry on the work, and many of you today have heeded that call to lead. Let us remember that he urged us always to strive for excellence and greater heights of success and achievement when he stated in his final speech to the Hawaii State Legislature, "Let us never forget that in human endeavor, nothing is beyond reach." Let us continue striving for ever higher goals, to continue dreaming the impossible dream, like we heard in the song, to pursue what is unattainable today, to make it tomorrow's reality. In the last paragraph of my book, An Aura of Greatness, which is my tribute to his life, legacy, and leadership, I write, "Today's leaders, political and otherwise, would do well to learn from my grandfather's example of visionary leadership, resilience, determination, courage, humility, integrity, and service. In this present time, many decades after my grandfather's death in 1975, the leaders of Hawaii and elsewhere need to take the time to pause and reflect, remembering the example of the late Governor Burns, in order to gain a renewed sense of purpose in their leadership. The torch has been passed to us now. Ours is to carry on his legacy and to dream of an even better future. May it be a bright and hopeful future for all of us." And I end with what my grandfather would often say at the end of his correspondences: Warmest personal regards to you. May the Almighty be with you and yours always. Mahalo nui loa.
We're going to close with Hawaii Aloha. So I would like everyone to stand up and please make your way to the outsides. We're going to just make a big circle over here. Yeah, that's okay. So when we hold hands, this is a way to hold hands that you know you're transferring energy, or at least it's symbolic of transferring energy, and that's left hand up, right hand down. So left hand up, right hand down. Left hand receives, right hand gives. I got to change my page first. Okay, so left hand up, right hand down. So again, we receive mana with our left hand and we give mana. We receive aloha, we give aloha. That flow is never ending. That flow goes right through us. So as we're singing, if you know the words, then sing out loud. If you don't know the words, just fake it. You'll be all right. Okay? E Hawaii e kuone hanau e kuhome kulaivine Oli noa ina ponolani o E Hawaii aloha E hau oli e na o pio Hawaii ne Oli Maina e a e makani e pa maine Mau ke aloha no Hawaii E hau oli E hau oli e na o pio Hawaii ne Oli Maina e a e makani e pa maine Mau ke aloha no Hawaii Mau ke aloha Mau ke aloha no Hawaii Mahalo for being here today. Please keep that vision alive, yeah? We're here to change the world, and we do it by being one with each other, by sharing this aloha. So, mahalo again. Aloha. And to remind everyone, we do have tours, so all of our students who are back there who look like doctors already, just go see them. Just go see them and they will guide you as far as the tour is concerned. And they are going to split the group in half. One is going to take a tour, the other half will vala'au, talk story, Q&A. And there's also refreshments across the way at the Wai'ola cafeteria, the cafe. So please be sure to go there and take advantage of the snacks that are provided. Thank you again. Aloha.